Okay, so this is part 3, our final part of molecular compounds, and we're going to look at how to draw molecular compound diagrams. So to draw molecular compound diagrams, we're actually going to use our Lewis diagrams. So remembering that our Lewis diagrams only show our valence electrons, so our electrons in our outermost shell. The electrons are arranged around our element symbol as if on a clock. So at 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 9 o'clock. And also remembering that we put them at 12, 3, 6, and 9, and then go through and fill in our second electron in pairs. So they'll end up looking something like this neon over here once they have a full shell. So only our unpaired electrons can be shared. So that's another reason why we go through, if I just go back here, and fill them in one at a time and then start to fill them in as pairs. And that way we can see which ones are on their own, unpaired, and that way we can see which ones can be shared. So going back here, only unpaired electrons can be shared. So let's then have a look at an example. So let's look at chlorine. So chlorine is one of our diatomic elements. So it likes to hang around in pairs. So let's have a look then at how these electrons are shared. So if we draw a chlorine Lewis diagram, we have 6 paired electrons and 1 electron here that can be shared. So when another chlorine comes along, which also only has 1 electron that can be shared, what happens is they come together and they share those single electrons. So we get our our chlorine 2 molecule here. Now, when we're drawing molecular compound diagrams as Lewis diagrams, our shared electrons can be shown as this dash or bar here. So this covalent bond or pair of shared electrons is shown as a line between the atoms, and that line is the same thing as showing 2 electrons there. So let's then have a look at another example, NH3 or ammonia. So what we're going to first do is we're going to draw our nitrogen Lewis diagram. So nitrogen has 5 electrons in its outer valence shell, or in its valence electron shell. We're then going to draw our hydrogens. Our hydrogens, we can see that we need 3 of them, and they each only have 1 electron in their valence shell. We can then pair up our single electrons in our nitrogen with our single electron in our hydrogens, sharing those unpaired electrons, and we get here our ammonium Lewis diagram, remembering that our shared electrons are shown as these bars here. Let's then look at one final example, CH4 or methane. So let's draw then our carbon. Carbon has 4 electrons in its valence electron shell, and we have 4 hydrogens that we are going to draw that are going to pair with our unpaired electrons on carbon. And when we pair them together, we get something like this, remembering again that our paired electrons are shown with these dashes or bars. So it's just as simple as that, just remembering how to draw our Lewis diagrams, and then showing our pairings as between the atoms as these bars here. So then let's finish off by comparing our ionic bonding versus our molecular or covalent bonding. So in our ionic bonding, we learnt that it's a metal and a non-metal, and molecular bonding, we learnt that it's between two non-metals. Ionic bonding is formed through the transfer of electrons, so giving away and taking of electrons. However, molecular bonding is formed through sharing of our electrons. Ionic bonding is forming positive and negative charges on our atoms. Molecular bonding does not form any charges on our atoms. Ionic bonding has high melting point and boiling point, whereas molecular bonding has a low melting point and boiling point. And finally, ionic bonding is a good conductor of electricity. However, comparatively, molecular bonding is a bad conductor of electricity. And again, just to help you guys remember which is which, there are these little cartoons here on the bottom. Ionic bonding here is the dog taking the bone away from the other dog. So he's taking away, it's like taking away electrons from the other atom. Whereas this little cartoon here on the covalent bonding side is of the dogs sharing the bone. And that's the same as atoms sharing their electrons. So now that you've gone through all three parts, I hope that you've got a better understanding of what molecular compounds and molecular bonding is.